Is schooling indoctrination? See, there was this topic that I indirectly saw about schooling and whether it is somewhat indoctrination or not. See, first of all, one should go through the definition of indoctrination. What I see indoctrination at its base is implying or even slightly forcing a point of view upon the others. Uh, and well, if it is enforcing, obviously it is somewhat at least against their will, but it is also, more importantly, it is done at a general level. Because indoctrination is not necessarily something individual. Like, for example, you can have, one can say that NGOs, for example, do indoctrination when they teach people to function in a certain way. But ultimately, true indoctrination is that which happens, at a core level of society, at a general level of society. Because, for example, schooling can actually be taken in a way as light indoctrination. Because you have different subjects, and those subjects, well, they will teach you that creation looks and behaves and functions in a certain way, it has a certain name or a certain shape. If you study, for example, literature, you're supposed to interpret on people and their beliefs and the such in a certain way, usually typical to that of the teacher. If you learn history, for example, it's like you're taught that history happened only in that way. Indoctrination also induces a self-defense mechanism in the sense that whatever you are being taught, you are taught in such a perverted way that the information itself is not important necessarily, but defending it is, because it makes use of what one can think of as the intellect, right? Or, well, it has a certain name, I don't simply care about it, honestly. But the point is, with everyone, every time you get a new idea, every time you believe in something, well, you will fight for it more or less, right? Indoctrination kind of relies on this a lot. Now, any kind of meaning, if we think about it, is a bit of indoctrination, because in its own sense, meaning means that you accept something as the vision that it has been granted upon, and it's like any other interpretation already is kind of negated. Like when you think of plants, when you think of literally anything, right? You have certain names for each and every one. It's like you can't call them any other way because no one will simply understand it, right? They'll probably even mock you or whatever, right? This kind of stinks a bit of light indoctrination. You can't simply embrace meaning without some light indoctrination, honestly, because just like any other piece of meaning, indoctrination is nothing else but meaning, right? It is somewhat more enforced, and the level of it is dictated by how strong its imposition of separation is. Because when you teach people certain things, well, you can teach them mechanically, like most teachers do, like this is the knowledge, learn it. You can do it in a pedagogical style, which is more suited on the people, and you teach those things to the people depending on how they learn, or you more like place an accent on teaching them how to learn things, right? Because how you learn those things, how you acquire those things is far more important than the things themselves, right? The ideas, the pieces of knowledge that you have to learn, right? And when those things are taught in such a way that if you think otherwise, you become somewhat of an enemy of society, right? Much like philosophers, for example, were throughout history, because they would always challenge the nature of knowledge. They would always challenge the roots of the provenance of that knowledge, right? Because everyone would be taught almost the same things, because otherwise a society most likely won't exist. But philosophy, for example, counters in a way this idea and constantly asks itself, how you acquire that knowledge, is it valid, and where does that knowledge come from, right? And it goes in a very, rigorous way, in a very like broad way. But I'm not here for the theory of philosophy, honestly, because it can go very much, and there's not much time to discuss on it. So everything in terms of meaning is more or less an indoctrination, because you have to give a certain freedom of your mind and calmness of the mind, more or less, in order to accept a piece of meaning. Ultimately, every piece of meaning is a belief, because you accept it the way it has been taught without much necessity for proof in the first place. So it's not much of a curse or a blessing. It is just something that is purposefully built in such a way that it serves a certain purpose mentally and or emotionally for the people, right? For as many people, be it that it is used in a subversive way or in a direct and helpful way, right? Because when schools teach you the things that you need in order to survive, right, and become a better person, a better human, let's say, in society, well, it kind of is serving you. When it is serving you agendas or anything that, it's not serving you directly, or at times probably even indirectly, like schools are nowadays. They don't teach you how to make money, how to understand money, how to survive in this world, right? All they teach you is the same thing, and it's over and over again in a broader perspective. Like when you are taken to the kindergarten, technically you're like a machine. You're taught to be like a robot, a machine that has to, obey what your superiors say. Same thing goes for school. Then you go to college, same thing happens. In many countries, you also have to take student loans, which kind of leave you, poor for most, if not half your life. And then you go to a job where you kind of do the same thing. And then people wonder why so many people simply prefer not to take initiative anymore. Well, when you're being trampled upon by a sick society who wants you dead anyways, and you're not taking any initiative, well, that's the green wave. You're literally giving them access to you. You're literally giving yourself up to a sick society, right? So, indoctrination, as I said, the level of indoctrination is given by how much you teach people that anyone who thinks otherwise is an enemy, right? Because heavy indoctrination, like you see, for example, in communism, is exactly that, right? They are served some information, some ideas, wisdom, or whatever it can be called, and anyone who thinks otherwise is like directly an enemy. And not only are they like prohibited from certain things, like there's always the involvement of repercussions, right? In usually so-called free society, which is not sick also, well, light indoctrination means you believe what you think, what you like for example, religions or other interior beliefs, and simply people don't or simply can't care much if you are someone else. For example, such things go on well at a temple. You go to a temple to simply be. You don't necessarily pray at a temple. You can say your prayers or whatever, it doesn't matter much. But honestly, you go to a temple because you want to be, right? You are there and you want to feel that connection with, let's say, divinity or whatever you want to call it, right? But from your own perspective, from your own capacity to feel things, right? So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You're appreciated. Have an awesome new year. And well, this being said, Ferenc Board signing out.